Jonas, who's editor-in-chief of the Columbia Sundial and a junior at Columbia University. You're on campus right now. I was just talking to my colleague about what she was seeing in the vantage point from even the journalism school, having a little bit of trouble with her audio, but you're on campus right now. What can you see?
So I am on campus property. I am actually in a friend's dormitory building, um, but this dorm is not actually within the campus gates. And so what has happened is that all of today, Columbia students, even Columbia students that live in housing, we couldn't access campus if we didn't live in a couple specific dorms that are within the gates. So as a journalist, I was out on 114th Street trying to photograph the police, trying to photograph where they were coming in and bringing the protesters out. And so, in preparation for that, what the police did was they pushed basically everyone on the street into the nearest building and made us remain there. I'm not sure if that restriction is still in place. I believe it is, which is why I've just been in this building the whole time. And, we actually went up to the roof, to one of the upper levels, and we could see sort of onto the street. We could see the buses. They had like 5 or 6 police buses, massive police buses coming in. We saw them bring out the protesters. There were massive protests going on Amsterdam Avenue, and they were, jeering as the police were bringing the protesters out. We saw a couple protesters try to obstruct the road, sit down, make it hard for the police officers, and the police, took care of that. We saw a woman who was, being sort of hung upside down and hauled onto the police bus. But overall, it was fairly orderly. It was very loud, even from the height that we were at. But it's just a chaotic scene, even from just outside the campus gates.
Are you getting a sense, and obviously Columbia University is not a small student population, but are you getting a sense from your peers and your fellow students that those who were arrested recently are students or from outside the institution?
Well, it's really hard to say, but there has to be some level of student involvement. At the end of
Why
the
do
day,
you
you
say that?
need students. Well, even though campus has been locked down to Columbia ID holders, now there have been ways of getting non-affiliates into campus. But for the most part, you need Columbia IDs. You need students to provide you with IDs so that you can get into campus. I think there is evidence that there is sort of outside organizations behind the planning of the occupation, but there certainly are numerous students who are, who were inside Hamilton Hall. And, last night, as I was reporting on the barricade and on the occupation, I recognized many, many Columbia students in the crowd that was forming the human chains around the entrances to Hamilton Hall. So this is, at the end of the day, it's still a student-fueled movement. It wouldn't have gotten sort of to the extent it has gotten without the involvement of the student organizations here.
It's an important point. I mean, I wonder, are you getting communication from the university? I mean, are you guys getting emails? Are you getting phone alerts? How are you being communicated with the university? I'm assuming, we in the media obviously knew about the request that was being made. It was public. It'd be a request made to NYPD. When were you first informed as a student body that it was happening? And what has been the communication since?
It's been virtually radio silence from the university, which is
Really?
actually very shocking. And so what we have received are, but during the day, they told us there's, an illegal occupation of Hamilton Hall, students might face expulsion, all of that. And then, in the evening, as the NYPD, they were gathering around campus, we got a text message alert and an email saying that there was a shelter-in-place order and that we needed to stay in our dorms and not go out onto campus or not explore the area. No specifics were given, but all of us knew that that was sort of a signal that the NYPD was going to raid campus. But once again, not an explicit sign. And beyond that, we got a message from the Dean of Columbia College and the Dean of Columbia Engineering tonight. They were saying, we support you, please stay safe. Pretty boilerplate message, but we haven't heard anything from University President Shafiq, let alone any other higher up administrator. So it's very, very surprising, especially given the unprecedented nature of calling the NYPD here for a second time.
By the way, does that stand in contrast to what has happened in recent weeks? Had you been hearing from the president of the university up until now, or other higher up student officials or campus officials until now, or has this been a consistent drumbeat of silence?
So actually, there were near daily updates leading up to today, which is why today's lack of communication is shocking to a lot of students. And so we would get updates. We'd get updates that they said that they weren't going to call the NYPD again because there was a lot of backlash to that among the students and among the faculty. So what the administration decided to do was to pursue negotiation with the protesters instead. So people were under the impression that there's not going to be another NYPD raid on campus. Now, with the end of negotiations and with the escalation in the form of the occupation of Hamilton Hall, that entire calculus has definitely changed on the administration's level.
Really important to hear your perspective and get us what students are experiencing right now. Thank you so much. We've got a lot more from Columbia University, where police have cleared the campus of protesters. We'll hear from university professors next. Back in a moment.